Hello everyone, my name is Chao Liu and I'm really glad to join this conference. My project is Pioneer Moss Regeneration for mine with the rocks revegetation. In Nemaska, there is a lithium mine. As shown in the picture, the white rock is sediment. It can be used for lithium berry, and the black one is amphibolate. At the same time, some waste rocks were left around the mine, so we would like to restore these waste rocks. And generally, vegetation restoration is the first step to rebuild biological communities and restore degraded ecosystems. Some species are early pioneers and are potentially well suited for restoration projects. Among the world of plants, the mosses are the second largest group. And why some moss species are potentially well suited for restoration projects? Because they have high reproductive rates, rapid establishment rates, large asexual reproductive populations, and most important, it has a wide region both geographically and ecologically because of their small size. Pyrophytes are able to occupy microsites in otherwise unfavorable habitats, as shown in the two pictures. They could live in the rocks, and they also have some ecological functions, such as carbon and nutrient cycling, water holding capacity, controlling soil climate, and forest renewal. So in Nemaska, we would like to find some pioneer mouse species. And in the end, we find Rhacomycin canescens, Rhacomycin eluctum, Polytrichum junipertum, and Polytrichum piliforum. They all are pioneer mosses and could grow in the drought conditions. Even though many baryphytes can tolerate high degrees of desiccation, water content and availability are important for potential accumulation of photosynthesis. Pitiding could help keeping moisture. As shown in the figures, the water content of peat is higher than that of soil. And the presence of a protective cover has been also shown to improve the moisture content of the substrate and improve the regeneration of mosses. As shown in the figure, we could see the regeneration of moss in shade treatment is higher than that of no shade treatment. And for moss, they have two forms of growth. First, stems continually branch and produce young plants. Second, young plants and the fragments of the stems and leaves repeatedly and extensively reproduce the protein, which developed into a large number of new plants. And we see in the picture, if we spread the same weight samples as the stems, the coverage of fragments is large, so the recovered area will be larger. And the goal of this study was to examine the regeneration capabilities of native pioneer mosses on Nemaska lithium mine waste rocks. And from Shibrook, there is another team. They would like to use vascular plant to restore these waste rocks. And we would like to use the mouse species. So we designed a split experiment as shown here. The first level, 3 types of soil, amphibolate, sediment, and sand mixed with peat. It is our control treatment. And second level, 2 kinds of shadings. Also second level, 2 amendment. Third level, 4 different moss species. And first level, 2 pre-treatment, shredded or not shredded. And the waste rock and the mosses were collected from Nemaska. In the lab, we just keep the green part of mosses and we 1 gram of the green part and put them in the bag before we start our experiment. And for shredded samples, we also with same grammar, and then we will grind the samples with a grinder. For Polytrichum, we mix the Polytrichum junipertum and the Polytrichum piliforum together. After moss preparation, we start our experiment in greenhouse. First, we adding peat. Second, we give water to this rock and peat, and then we spread moss simples. Lastly, we secure the sun shades over the trees. And during the experiment, we would like to measure the humidity and the temperature all the time. And we find just after 2 weeks, we could see the new growth, and we will measure the coverage of new growth every 2 months. And this picture is in the end of our experiment. We could see that the regeneration of moss in some treatment was almost 100%. And we also calculate gemtified regeneration, and we used R to analyze our data. Now we could see the result. Firstly, we see the effect of peat amendment on the regeneration of this species. We could find peat amendment had a negative effect on the regeneration of moss species in sound treatment, while it had a positive effect on moss species in 2 rocks treatment. So this means there was a clearly interaction between peat amendment and mineral on the regeneration of all species tested. And we also find the signs of shade increase the regeneration success of Polytrichum and the Régénération electum. But shade had no clear effect on the regeneration of Régénération connaissance. And the shred only showed a negative effect on the regeneration of Polytrichum in sound treatment. And in all soil types, Régénération had higher regeneration than Polytrichum. And when growing on both types of rocks, we find Régénération electum showed the best regeneration with peat amendment, whether it was shading or not. And compared to both types of rocks, we find the regeneration of all species were highest on sound treatment. Especially for Régénération, we find their regeneration still increased over time in sound treatment. And the regeneration of all species were higher in Spiegelman than that of amphibolate. This result may be related to the negative effect of soil from amphibolate. As shown in the picture, we could see there are a lot of wet soil in the amphibolate treatment. And here are our conclusions. First, the best way to revegetate the old residues and tilings appears to be with a combination of Régénération electum and peat amendment. Second, the addition of sand on Nemaska lithium mine with the rock spills could favor the regeneration of the tested pioneer moss species. Third, for Régénération, we could shed them to get much higher coverage of regeneration. Thanks for your suggestions.